This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Tragedy, case number 92. Today, we're going to be talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Bruiser Bellum, also known as Johnny Kane, and also known as Ian. I can't pronounce the last name. Guys, can you help me out? How you pronounce it? Ion Crow, whatever. Whatever.
Croitoru?
Croitoru, yeah.
Yeah, that would take the whole show if we try to figure out how it's pronounced. But again, we're going to definitely talk about this gentleman, man. This guy was very interesting, had two sides of himself, you know, in the pro wrestling world, but also almost like a Dino Bravo story, you know, kind of like it mirrors each other. But again, this is really interesting. Definitely something that we have to kick off and fix my camera here because it's not showing my beautiful face the way it's supposed to. But let's get these wait, before I even get the sponsors out. Guys, it's my fault. I'm tired. It's early in the morning. Pierce Austin, along with my man John Paws here, representing the three the hard way, the Three Stooges, whatever we want to call ourselves. But
Three's Company.
Three's Company. Oh, wait a minute. Then who's? Wait, then two guys got to be the bitches. I don't know. But anyway, let's get these sponsors out the way so we can definitely talk about this interesting case. Sleeves.com, man, one of the greatest websites out there. I definitely got a pair of those dirty boxes. Before I talk about it, any athlete out there that needs sports accessories, definitely check out Sleeves.com. They got all your stuff that you needed for the gridiron, the basketball court, anything that you need. Use promo code MWAPOD for 10% off, but also the dirty boxes are the ones that make that website the bomb. Definitely use promo code MWAPOD for 10% off. I'm telling you, man, you won't regret it. Check them out.
And while you're checking stuff out online, go and check out healthvape.com. Health Vape is your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they are vitamin infused. Use promo code MWAPOD and get a 10% discount on your final purchase.
Right on. All right. Paz, I mean, you're pretty familiar with this case, man, and we were just talking about it before the show started. You were throwing some good nuggets that I was not really aware of, you know, so maybe you should step off that sidewalk and give us some Scoobies, man.
So to me, like just wrestling wise, before we kind of get into the life of crime, wrestling wise, it kind of came to popularity because he was a WWF jobber back in the day, or enhancement talent, whatever you want to say. Angel, I just was curious though, how much of that is like that gets you popular, how much of that doesn't? You know what I mean? Like, because they would be like, oh, from WWF TV, and then you go to your local indie or your local show and you'd be like, wow, this guy was on WWF TV, he's great. But then you really look at it like, well, he didn't really win any matches, but he's in there with Tito and Paul Orndorff and Barry O and some big names. But that was like a big thing for him that he was, I was on WWF TV. I'm the WWF wrestler. They're announcing my name, Johnny K9. Like that was a big thing for him. Is that really that big or is that not? Because you're an enhancement guy, you're losing, but you're on WWF TV for, 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it is. Is that good or bad?
I don't know. It depends on how it plays out. Barry Horowitz, perfect example. A gentleman that never really won anything, but people knew who he was. So that was his accolades. But then if you look at Brooklyn Brawler, gets his accolades from that. They know him from that. But then when you look at the past, you're like, oh shit, the Pitbulls were in there. I didn't know the Pitbulls were in there at one point. When you look at Just Incredible, you see old photos like, oh, holy shit, that's PJ. Right. Oh shit. Tony DeVito, when he was fatter, had that big mullet haircut. You like, and Mike Bell, you like, you pop because you never notice. It's also like watching an actor who's famous now, and then you watch a movie that you saw a long time ago. Holy shit, I didn't know he was in that motherfucker. Now that it clicks. So it's kind of like a scale. It kind of like teeter-totters on either way. It depends on either, yeah, I kind of remember him, but I don't, or yeah, I do. Bruiser Bellum or Johnny K9. I vaguely remember him. So it doesn't give him the kudos that like, yeah, I remember him. I just vaguely like have a cloudy picture of seeing him on WWF at the time. So
because that was like his big like claim to fame, like as he's first getting in, and local people that knew him when he go back to like the home stage in the Indies was like, oh, he's a WWF wrestler, he's on WWF TV, even though he was losing and jobbing. And I know a ton of guys in New Jersey used to do it all the time. There's a guy Sampson that used to do jobs in like the early 2000s, and he would come back to the local indie and really say, "Oh, WWF, I was on WWF TV. Hey, I was a druid," like all this other stuff, and he'd play it off, and that was like a big important thing. But to me, it was like, wow, Canine, and even in the documentary Dark Side of the Ring, they really kind of were like showing the footage, showing the names, showing him and MSG losing, and just different things. He seemed like he took like really extra pride in that because, hey, I was in WWF, which is obviously it's a big deal. But like Shane Douglas and Mick Foley, maybe not a lot of people remember that other than Dynamite Kid destroying Foley. So sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad.
I think when guys go and do like enhancement talent jobs for WWE as well, the thought of going in there and doing is to get seen and to get signed, right? But like I think that then going back to their local indies and saying that sort of thing, it's for a pop for the crowd and probably some of the younger wrestlers to go, hey, I was on a card with a guy who wrestled on WWF television. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
But I think you do see some guys sort of get signed from that. I mean, look at the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys started out doing that sort of thing and eventually got signed.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to Dr. Tom about the Hardy Boys, and he was saying like they put in extra effort in those enhancement matches. You could tell some guys gave him more offense. Like Sean Waltman would kind of give him a little bit of offense. You're like, wow, these guys are trying really hard. Some of the other guys, they just get bulldozed. I mean, they just get destroyed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember the Hardy Boys at the King of the Ring opening the fucking door.
Yes, yes, yep.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, but again, I only remember that because now I know who they are, and I remember seeing them doing that. But again, I mean, like I said, it just depends, man. There's so many. Either your career could be made by look at the Italian Stallion. I remember him because he was a jobber, but then he was a big star in NWA. I think was it NWA? Oh, yeah. See, so kind of like flip flops. You'd be hot one place and not in another.
He was the first guy ever to be trained like to wrestle, but paid to train to wrestle, which was really interesting because like you never heard of that, but he was a real wrestler, real athlete. And then Ole Anderson found him like, you want to be a wrestler? No. He's like, we'll pay you. We'll give you a car. All right, I'll do it. So that's how Stallion kind of got noticed and got into the business, which is interesting. You wouldn't think that like, like nowadays, like you're paying Lesnar, especially then, but now it's like you're paying Lesnar, you're paying Batista, these monster guys that look like $1 million. You want to become wrestlers. Gary Sabol, the Italian Stallion, was the first guy ever to get paid to train. Pretty crazy.
But like you look at Johnny Canine when he was doing enhancement work for WWF, he wasn't really a big guy back then. You know what I mean? Like when you look how much he transformed over those years, like it's just like night and day. Like it looks like two completely different human beings.
Gimmicks, man. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, I got pictures of me when I first started, bro. I looked like I was one of those kids that you could, if you for 63 cents a day, you too could feed a family of four. I mean, but then when I got hooked up with the boys, got the gimmicks, said my prayers, take my vitamins, believe in myself, then I got swole, and stuff. So yeah, everybody starts off skinny. There's a lot of besides DeVito, he was fat, but a lot of the boys. Steve Corino, perfect example. That motherfucker was skinny as fuck, long ass mullet, and then look at him now. I'm not saying he's fat. I'm just saying he's thicker. And
the Japanese love that. Mm-hmm. The Japanese love that. When Corino gained all that weight, he became a heavyweight over there, and they pushed him to the moon at 0-1. So they love that look.
Yeah, it's that thickness.
Yeah, With Canine though, it's interesting. If you go back and you watch some of those like enhancement matches. They don't always mention the guy's name and stuff like Gorilla and whoever on commentary. It seemed like, I don't know, it was almost like he was about to get signed or they had interest in him because they would kind of like mention him and like, oh, this guy's nuts. And like, oh, this guy, like as if they thought he
put
had
over
something.
The gimmick. Yeah,
they put over his gimmick. Like he had some sort of look. I know he wasn't as big as obviously he'd become as Bruiser Bedlam, but he had some sort of look or something that the announcers were paying attention to him.
Yeah, I mean, I can't call him Johnny Kane. I always knew him as Bruiser Bedlam. I mean,
me too.
I just can't even. When he mentioned Pierce, like, oh, let's do a show about Johnny Kane. I'm like, who the fuck is that dude? And after he told me about, oh, you mean Bruiser Bedlam, and because that's all I knew him as, But it's just funny how your memory only sticks to a certain person, and for a gimmick, that sticks in my mind. But again, I mean, it's just like I said, this guy was very interesting, and like I said, he was like a Jekyll and Hyde type of story, like like Pierce said, the boys, oh, he was a nice guy, very friendly, outgoing, do anything for you, man, pay the bill. But then as soon as he walked out the door, he was like that fucking Looney Tunes cartoon with Daffy Duck. Oh, what's your name? Oh, Slopshire Slasher. You know, and stuff like that. And,
how much of that do you think though is it's not like you like leading two lives. It's like, all right, wrestling. I love wrestling. Obviously, he's a huge wrestling fan. He loved the business. He loved being around. So it's like, oh my God, I'm so happy. I'm in my happy place. Like Happy Gilmore. He's with the hot girl. He's he's playing golf, whatever. He goes to his happy place. Like how much is like he gets to the arena and that's his happy place. He's in a good mood. He loves wrestling. He loves the fans. He loves being in the ring. And then all of a sudden, when real life hits, it's like, oh God, how am I going to make more money? I didn't make enough money. All right, I got to go to a life of crime. So it's not really Jekyll and Hyde or being a two-face. It's like I found my happy place. I'm happy. I love wrestling. I'm obsessed with wrestling. And once you don't have that high from wrestling, you have to go to face reality. How much of that's like, man, this sucks. I'm going to have to do this to make money, do that. You know what I mean? It's almost like he's so happy to be a wrestler, but then when reality hits, it's like, fuck, man, I got to do something to make myself some more money.
Yeah, and it's also wanting to live a certain lifestyle as well. You know what I mean? Like if you don't want to live like just earning like minimum wage, but you want to live like high on the hog, you want to be able to take your girl or your wife out for like dinner 3 nights a week, buy your kids like toys every second day, shit like that. You know what I mean? That money's got to come from somewhere, man. And I think that like this guy wanted to just have plenty of bank, and he wanted to be famous, but like you know what I mean? Like he, the thing that it comes down to, he wanted to be famous. He didn't want to be in a life of crime, but that's all that he kind of knew. And you kind of look at his life growing up and being that sort of, you know what I mean? Like that's the sort of way that he sort of was raised, and he sort of had a rough childhood and stuff like that. So he only really knew that route to make money.
Well, no, I kind of disagree, man. I mean, it depends on the person because again, he could have been an adrenaline junkie. Because look at Dino Bravo. Perfect example. We did a show on him. The guy had money, he had a beautiful house, he had cars, he was living, and maybe he was living outside his freaking means, but because I remember that's what he was. That house was costing him a lot of money. But let's go back a little bit. He was, he had money, but then he was still doing the things on the side, because that was his lifestyle. Again, just because he grew up in a fucked up environment. I grew up in a fucked up environment. I knew there was money out there on the streets, but I didn't decide. I did my dirt, but when I got into wrestling, I was making money doing that, but I wasn't like, man, I gotta get that high, and threaten people because he was a debt collector. That's one of the stories that was he was a debt collector. He was working for that crew collecting money. So maybe he loved the high plus the character he was, the size, the look, the little ponytail gimmick. Yeah, that's intimidating to get that money. It's probably an easy gig to do, to collect easy cash.
And some guys got that personality, like that bully mentality. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I can bully some people around, and he's pretty big, Johnny K9, Boozer Bedlam. So he probably enjoyed certain aspect of bullying people around, just because he can get away with it.
Yeah, John, just curiosity. I mean, I looked up his what was he making at the time in in Smokey Mountain WWEOF at the time? I mean, what was he making some type of financial gain, or was he just
the story was that you're not making. He's an enhancement guy. He's not making a lot of money, and even Smokey Mountain, he wasn't making a lot of money. Nobody was. Like the great story about Stan Lane quitting, and Cornette's like, why? He goes, Jim, there's no money here. Like I'm making pennies or whatever. I can make more, doing commentary and doing other stuff. So, and even I always talk to Dr. Tom. He's like, the money was okay, but if you're a certain guy like Heavenly Bodies are on top of the card, I'm sure it's okay. And I know Stan is used to NWA money, which was way more. So Bedlam was making like okay money there. So you almost need to do something else. Not saying you need to do a life of crime, but you almost need that extra income because you're not just going to make a full-time living on Smokey Mountain Wrestling. If you look at some of the cards, 400 people are there, 200 people are there. They might have a show with 1,000, a couple, but there's a lot of small towns in there. And this isn't guaranteed money days either. So this is like you're making money off the house. So he was not making a lot of money off wrestling. He just loved it. That was his passion.
Well, and that's the thing, and I'm, again, Pierce doesn't know, and John, you probably know a little bit about, but like in my ECW days when I first started, I'll tell you exactly how much I was making. I was making $75 doing ring crew, $75 wrestling. I wrestled
heard that same story from a couple guys. Yep,
3 times. So that's why I was always like, man, I'm on the lineup. Am I on the lineup? So man, $75. That's what? What's the math on that? I'm horrible at math. But anyway, I wasn't making any money. Plus, I had to pay no, I didn't have to pay for hotel because that was covered under for the ring crew. I didn't have to. The only thing I had to cover for myself was food, and I was able to travel, but it was driving, so it was killing me. So those are the only things. But then when I got out of the ring crew, remember it was that time where I was getting my feet wet. Still, I was still making that 75. Now it was just that one paycheck. Now I wasn't working with those two things. It was combined. So I was still not making any money. Then now, guess what? I'm paying for my hotel, my travel expenses, not my
Yep.
flight, but just my rent a car and food. So that was even eating up my money. So I had to suck it up for a while until I started gaining some traction. So I could understand if Bruiser Bellum wasn't making money. I'm just trying to see like if he was making more than me at the time. If he was making $600 a match, that's good money. Because I wasn't making shit. Or was he making $100 a match and he only wrestled twice a week? So it just depends on how that was played out.
Cornette was saying in Smoky Mountain, it was not like a, you're not getting a waterfall of money from them for sure. It
What,
was very
what was
small amount.
how many times a week did Smoky Mountains do? Was it a Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Was it a Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Was it always or 2 days, Friday, Saturday?
I thought they ran. I'll have to look it up. I thought they ran about 4 times a week. So I don't think it was like a small amount, but it wasn't. It's not like every day of the week. It's not like WWF back in the day.
So if to be generous, man, if you're, I'm gonna say like if you were making $100 a
Right? Maybe
day,
he might be making $400 a week. Maybe.
yeah, then that's really not good money, especially if you have family. Go ahead.
Like the thing like I found interesting as well was like that he would just walk into places and just sort of like do things like take things, like go in there like at a buffet and just like take food, and the staff's like, hey, you can't do that, you've got to pay. And he's like, okay, buddy, no problem, buddy, I won't do it again, buddy. And just go and eat, and like
Right.
just go like into a store and like take off his shoes and put on a brand new pair of shoes and walk out and leave the old shoes there. And people like, but you can't do that. It's okay, buddy. No, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like aggressive. He wasn't violent towards people that weren't in that life that he was in, if that makes sense.
Right, but he did have that bully mentality where he can just get away and do whatever he wants. He's bulldozing the person, but he's not doing it in like a physical or mean way. He's doing it in like, look at me. What are you going to do about it? Thank you, kind of way.
Yeah. It's almost like, look, just chill. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. But him going into the life of crime, it could be a financial thing, but I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where he kind of wanted to go into it. I know, obviously, selling drugs and the cigarette running thing is a weird thing to me, but trafficking cocaine, you know what I mean? Like it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, I guess I'll do this for money. Seems like he enjoyed that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, like he definitely had a presence about him as well that we were talking about before, like true to the crew tattoo on his stomach.
Yep.
He looked like a big menacing scary motherfucker, but like everyone in the business was saying how like kind and generous he was, how much of a lovely person that he was. Even I was saying that this that Scott D'Amore was saying that they went and worked for this promoter, and the promoter gave Scott D'Amore his envelope. He's gone and like he's in the car with Johnny Canine, and Scott D'Amore gets in the car, opens it up, and he's gone, oh fuck, like I mean the promoter's like shorted him on the pay. And Johnny Canine's going, what's going on? Did the promoter short you? He's like, oh yeah, it's all right, but don't worry about it. And Johnny Canine got out of the car. Scott D'Amore's running after him. And then Johnny Canine went in, grabbed the promoter. He's like, you're going to fucking short pay this guy after he worked his ass for you? Do you like wrestling me tonight? Would you want to get in there and wrestle me? Give this guy the fucking money. He goes, he ended up like throwing money at Scott D'Amore, and he was just like, walked out. And they're like, I don't think he's ever going to short pay you again. And Scott D'Amore's like, well, we're probably never going to get booked again by the guy.
Right, of course. It's a great story because it just shows you like he's very loyal to his friend. He doesn't like his friends getting screwed. But in the other instance, it's like, okay, he's going to be he's going to be a bully, and he's going to steamroll this guy, and he's going to make sure his buddy gets paid. Although making the guy literally probably shit his pants.
Yeah, but the thing is, from a professional wrestler standpoint, man, that's one thing about promoters is that they want to be big time, big wheels, and and wheeling and dealing and stuff, and be big man. and hire all these guys, but then they didn't want to pay you. Oh, hey man, I'm sorry. The gate was, that's one thing. One of my rules, like I used to get those says from promoters, like, hey, I know I promised you $100, but the house was real small, and so I only could pay you 50. But then you go, well, motherfucker, I never told you need to pay me more when the house was bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
So why is it that you got to short me? So again, you have to sometimes strong arm these promoters because they take advantage of you. And yeah, then of course they might not book you, but then it's kind of like the lesser of two evils. If you don't say nothing, they take advantage of you. If you do say something, you're being a bully. So I don't think Bruiser Bellum was being bully. He was just standing up for the boys. Because some people can't speak up for themselves. Oh man, I don't want trouble.
The more wouldn't. Yeah, the more wouldn't.
I just want my, I'm still trying to get my break. I don't want problems. Fuck that. And then they go in there and start chipping their teeth. I mean, look at, for example, I remember when Sid Vicious and Tommy Rogers came into the Elks Lodge because Paul was not paying them. And Sid Vicious came in, but the Dudleys were there because they were standing behind him because they thought they were, Sid Vicious was going to attack Paul. And then apparently they're going to beat him up, I guess, supposedly, apparently, hypothetically. So, but then, they got their money, but guess what? Sid Vicious never came back. Tommy Rogers never came back. They got their money, but Paul never used them. So is he being a bully or is he standing their ground?
Standing their ground. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. But from other people's standpoint, he came in and bullied Paul for the money and stuff. And I mean, like I said, it's two sides of a story, man. So I agree with Bruiser Bellum standing up for the boys, man. I mean, there's always the diplomacy, but again, I mean, it depends how you approach it. So maybe he approached it the wrong way, but he got the most money.
He seemed like a ticking time bomb, though. Like he's in a good mood. He's in a good mood. His friend gets screwed. His friend opens the envelope. He gets screwed even more. His friend gets upset. Boom, snapped. Goes back in there. We're getting your money. You know what I mean? He just seemed like that kind of type where it just escalated and he would just blow up. It just seemed like that was his personality.
It's funny. I knew. Oh, good.
I was just going to say, I don't think necessarily that it was like his personality. I think it was just the way that he was as far as like how he'd been brought up, but also in that life, like you don't like, in that life of like that he was in with Satan's Choice, they're not going to let some motherfuckers walk all over them. So it's almost like they can't be looked at to make it look weak. So they're going to go, well, fuck you. You want to try and fuck us, then we're going to get ours plus then, plus a lot fucking more. Fuck you. This is, we're going to leave looking like we're on top.
Yeah. I agree.
But it's funny, like, okay, Bruiser Bellum had a very hot temper, and everybody's like, I knew guys were hot tempers, and I know, let me just bring up a wrestler. His name was Big Russ McCullough, and I was wrestling him in Puerto Rico. He was, to me, a Bruiser Bellum. Nicest guy. Great. I hung out with him. We built a great relationship. But fucking, he was a firecracker, man. I just give you a short story just for the fans to get a laugh out of it. We were wrestling in Puerto Rico and we were driving together and he was hungry. So we were driving and he's like, man, I got to get something to eat. So we stopped at Burger King. And of course they spoke Spanish. So I had to make an order. So he told me, Angel, can you order me a Filet-O-Fish, no lettuce, no mayos. I just want a Filet-O-Fish with the cheese. Okay, no problem. So, hey man, in Spanish, ordered his food, ordered mine. Boom. We get to the fucking, he gets his bag, get to the window, gets his bag, drives to he goes, before I leave, he parked the car, goes in the bag, picks up the styrofoam container, because back in the days when they were in styrofoam containers, he opened it up. Motherfucker. My God fucking nay, man. Dude, what's wrong? Fucking lettuce. Fucking mayo. Brother, relax. I'll go back. We'll get it done right. We go back. I go in. Speak in Spanish, ma'am. The order's wrong. No lettuce, no mayo, just cheese and the Filet-O-Fish. Thank you. Get the bag. Go back in the car. Hey, see, happy camper, easy peasy. I got you taken care of. Ooh, we start driving. 10 minutes later, he reaches in the bag as he's driving, opens up the container. Son of a bitch. Motherfucker. Punches the steering wheel, hits the fucking ceiling. He's white, so he's just turning beet red. And I'm like, mother, what's wrong? He says it again. So, and he what's McDonald's slogan? what was the McDonald's slogan real quick? Whatever. But anyway,
Happy Meal.
whatever. He was saying the McDonald's slogan, and I said,
Oh,
brother.
I'm loving it or whatever.
He goes, I'm loving it. Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. This is bullshit. And I said, bro, that's McDonald's, man. We were at Burger King. Motherfucker, who gives a shit? And I just kept egging him on. And the veins were coming out. And I said, brother, relax. I'll take the filet fish here. You can have my Whopper. And then attitude changed. Okay. And we kept driving. That dude, I used to push his buttons all the time because I knew how far I can go. It was almost like a Steve Blackman. Like you go to a point where you know you don't want to go too far to make him go batshit crazy, but just enough to entertain you. And that's what I'm saying. I just think that I'm just giving you that story because I've been with guys who are just that volatile, but then the most nicest guy at a flip of a coin. It was entertainment.
But this is like Fruits of Bedlam or Johnny K9, whatever you want to say. Okay, he gets in trouble at the strip club. The cops, they get involved, and it's like, how can I get revenge on the cops? Like normal people are probably like, all right, the cops broke it up. All right, that's enough. His was like, boom, that snap. He just snapped or whatever you want to say. The firecracker just blew up. All right, I'm going to blow up the police station. Like, what in the hell? There was something different about him. That something, you know what I mean? Like something triggered him, and he would just completely snap. Who would do that? Like, okay, you get in trouble. You kind of get away with it. You got to go your own way. It's like, nah, I got to get those cops back. They can't make me look bad. I'm going to blow up the police station. Like, who does shit like that? I mean, that's pretty insane.
Because he has a wrestling mentality. Like, hey, nobody's going to pull a high spot on me. I'm going to pull a high spot on them. So if they're going to fucking work me, I'm going to work them. Boom! There you go, bitch. Sell that.
It's a bit extreme. Wasn't that a bit extreme, though?
But you know what? The whole thing came over, like, not wearing colors into a strip club.
Yeah.
Which is probably a rule known in most countries around the world that outlaw motorcycle clubs can't wear their colors inside, a premises that serves alcohol in most countries.
I just think that, like, wow, they talk about taking things to the extreme or really like snapping. Like, oh yeah, you're gonna, tell us what we can do and can't do, and you're gonna embarrass us. Well, I'm gonna blow up your damn police station. I mean, that's intense, to say the least.
Apparently, he didn't know about it. Apparently, he thought they were going to blow up the strip club.
Right. And then they changed course and decided to blow up the police station.
That's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah. Knowing me, if I knew Bruiser Bellum, and if let's say he told me that, like, yo, I blew up the police station, and then it's like, man, you only blew up half of it, man. Next time, do it right. You suck. God damn it. I'll do it right next time. Because that's how the boy would do it. What?
He was joined up with the Satan's Choice and was like pretty much like he was a chapter president, I think, in Hamilton, Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And his time like inside that, like, dude, that's where like a lot of his criminal activity happened, when he was inside Satan's Choice.
Seems like to me, though, if you are in Satan's Choice and like your leader or the chapter leader is like, or we're not going to take shit from anybody. We got embarrassed. We're going to blow up the police station. I don't give a shit. Or I'm going to blow up the strip club. You would probably take that guy pretty damn seriously. Like, okay, this guy is not to be messed with. Like, okay, this guy's a real leader. But then you got to be thinking on the other hand, like, this guy's going to get us in some serious trouble.
Oh, 100%. Like, he served, time in prison for trafficking cocaine. He was convicted of assault, and he was sentenced to 7 months.
Convicted of murder.
Exactly. Like, he tried to even get away from it at one stage, and when he got out of jail, and he moved away to another area where, like, away from his, because like I remember hearing that his wife, when he went to jail, he got out quick. Like, he got out on bail quick, and everyone was saying that he was a rat. And it's like she was having like people coming up like to her in the street and going, "Your husband's a fucking rat," and she's like laying out dudes and shit.
Right.
Like,
yeah, she seemed to like not to be a person to be messed with either.
But how true do you think that would be? Like, she's just fucking punching out like gangsters and bikers and shit. Like, come on now.
Probably.
I don't know. But what did she look like? Was she a big chick? I never really saw photos of this woman. Was she a small?
She kind of looks. Just looking at her, you could tell like she's pretty tough. Just looking at her, looks like she had a rough life.
that shit that the lips of a vagina was made out of sandpaper type of thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
just a real hardcore chick and shit with jewelry hanging from it. I mean, I hear you, man. I mean, but that's the thing, man. Like, oh no, it was over, man. But I just like I just really like the story of Bruiser Butler. I hate saying it, but it's just like it to me. I pop for it because it's like, who the fuck will blow up a police station? Who the fuck will be a fucking debt collector for the mob?
Right.
It's just like it's just something like, wow, you kicked it up a notch, man. I pop for it. So I mean, it's just something that I just don't get why he would do something like that, especially you know um I don't know, just especially the type of person he was that everybody said he was like a nice guy, cool dude, but just never fan to see him go that route, you know?
Well, they were saying that him and a group of guys, they murdered some people, but then they got away with it for insufficient evidence. But he had that tag on him kind of for the rest of his life that he was a
Mm.
murderer.
Oh yeah, it was apparently kind of like it was stuck to him, man. I mean, there was no way that he could have got away with it, man. But again, I mean, a lot of the evidence was pointing in his direction, and stuff like that. I mean, I was just reading about it, like they killed his family execution style with a fucking shotgun, and they say he was the one that did it, So
Well, he was also in the United Nations gang. Years and years later, after he was in Satan's Choice, and when he was in the United Nations gang, he was charged with conspiracy to commit murder for allegedly plotting to kill the Bacone brothers and members of the Red Scorpion gang.
it sounds like an episode of fucking Sons of Anarchy and shit.
Right?
You know, I never heard of those gangs before. But these are all Canadian gangs at the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's why I'm not knocking them. That's probably why I never came across their story. But
Sentenced to
so
13 years in prison.
mm, so I mean, but did he try to keep in contact with the wrestlers during that time while he was in trouble? Like the Jim Cornettes, or if people were just trying to keep that distance from him due to the fact that the shit he was doing.
Seemed like Scott Demore was friends with him. Seemed like anyway from the Dark Side of the Ring documentary was friends with him the whole time. Seemed like Lance Storm and a bunch of those guys kind of stopped being friends with him at a certain point. But it seemed like Demore kind of was friends with him for a while. Seemed pretty loyal to him despite his crime past, if you will. But I just wanted to mention the Smoky Mountain stuff kind of before getting into his real downfall and death and being in the halfway house and everything else. Him and Smoky Mountain is so interesting because it's like, okay, this guy was a jobber on WWF TV, but he had a certain look. Then he got himself juiced up and he looked even bigger. So Cornette definitely saw like, okay, I could do something with this guy. He's kind of like a big freak. He looks like an absolute monster, which maybe behind the scenes, maybe he really was. But to me, it was like, okay, he's going to be Bruiser Bedlam and he's going to feud with Bullet Bob Armstrong, who was a big star for Smoky Mountain there. He's going to be with Jim Cornette. It was like, wow, they gave this guy a huge push in Smoky Mountain kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, Smoky Mountain needed a big, bad looking heel, and Cornette had seen him and gone, fuck, like, look at this guy. You know what I mean? Like, tattered, big, like, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't have like a bodybuilder type of body. He had like a prison made body. You know what I mean? Like, just big lifting, heavy weight. You know what I mean? Like, he just had that prison made body.
Well,
And
he owned the gym that he bought from the Missing Link. That's why back in the days in Smoky Mountain, a lot of wrestlers wearing that shirt, bad something gym on their shirt. He owned it. He was giving it to the boys, but he bought it from the Missing Link. Missing Link had a gym known for that. I got to find the name of it.
no shit.
Yeah, he owned that gym.
So he's in Smoky Mountain. They make him a monster. They put him with Cornette, obviously the big heel, the big manager there. He feuds with Bullet Bob, who was the big star there, and he beats him.
He
So
beats
it's like,
them both.
wow, and it's like, holy shit, this guy he's not only getting a push, he's beating a local legend. So I mean, Cornette obviously saw a lot in him. He basically christened him like the top heel pretty quickly.
Yeah. And then even like when he was in Smoky Mountain, he beat Macho Man.
Oh, that's unforgivable. I actually, when I interviewed Cornette, I interviewed a bunch of times, but I remember one of the interviews I mentioned to him, I was like, wow, why the hell did Bruiser Bedlam, of all people, ever beat Macho Man? I was like, that is insane. Like, Macho Man, one of the biggest stars of all time, comes down there, is doing you guys a favor, and you have Bruiser Bedlam, of all people, beating freaking Macho Man Randy Savage. So here was the caveat, though, and I blame Cornette, and he said it's not his fault. Savage called his own shots. So Savage said, "Are you pumping up this guy?" And he said, "Yeah, he's my big heel." And he goes, "Well," he goes, "I'm only here for a few shots, or I'm only here for one shot. I should lose to him, and you should pump him up as the big star of the territory." So Macho Man is the one that suggested jobbing to this guy to get him over because he was Cornette's big heel. So I was like, "Wow, I guess Cornette." I guess you get a pass because that was horrible booking, and you can't really blame Macho Man. He's almost being too unselfish. But Macho Man wanted to put the guy over. I was shocked.
But you can't,
Right there, brother.
you can't even blame Cornette for that. Like, I'm not a Cornette fan, like, at all. But, like, that's smart for business and good for Macho Man for having that mind because it's the right thing. Because Macho Man's not going to be there in a month.
Right.
Bruiser
Yep.
Bedlam
That's
is.
what Macho said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So it
that's the
makes
same
sense.
thing. That's the same thing when Scott Hall put over Big Sal. Sal pinned
Yeah.
him in ECW. Clean. Because he knew that, okay, I got to put over this guy because I'm only here for temporary. Why would I want to squash the main guy if I'm not going to be around to do a story with him? Really, it's just common sense. It's
Smart business.
booking 101. I mean, but it depends on the wrestler too. If they want to, put the guy over. If you're gonna have a guy who's bitching him, I ain't putting that motherfucker over. Fuck that. Then you got to change the story around. But some guys, want to help other people around.
And I was just talking to Kevin Sullivan. We were talking about Clash of the Champions, and it was on Clash of Champions 32. It's on a Tuesday. On Monday, the night before, Savage beats Flair for the title, just to kind of show Macho Man how smart he is to the business. So the next night, it's a tag match: Hogan and Savage versus the Giant and Flair. Hogan is supposed to go over Flair. Savage goes, and Flair complained, didn't want to do it. Savage goes, "Wait a second, I just beat Flair the night before for the title. Now Hogan's going to beat him." I was like, "So there's going to be no contenders for the title?" He goes, "I should lose to Flair, and Hogan and the Giant shouldn't be involved in the finish." Just Savage is really smart to the business. And Sullivan, of course, is like, "Yes, we're going with that. Flair pins you." Because then Savage has another opponent, and Flair is kept strong because he literally beat him the night before. If he loses 2 nights in a row, once to Savage, once to Hogan, it kind of Flair loses his luster. So Savage is really smart to the business where he's like, "All right, I'm jobbing to this guy. I'm only going to be here for one day. I'm putting this guy over." Like, he's constantly helping because he knows who cares if he loses. It doesn't hurt him. Nobody's going to remember the next day. You know what I mean? He's Macho Man. He's forever made. So it's just funny.
Immortalized,
Yeah, he's immortal. So it's like he could lose 100 times in a row. Nobody would care. But it's funny, his mind and his booking process, even Cornette was like, "Okay, great. Like, Bruiser Bedlam goes over, and I have my monster for the territory who beat Bullet Bob and friggin' Macho Man. I have a big heel."
But one question I want to know, like, is after a certain period of time, like I think it was like a year that he was there with Smokey Mountain Wrestling. Why did Cornette get rid of him? Because Cornette was like, "Yeah, it was just time to rotate people through." So I was like, "All right, see you later." Like, what is the reason for that? Because like promotions seem to like keep their talent for more than a year nowadays. Like, like, can you explain that? Is that how the territories used to work?
It just depends, man. If they don't have nothing for you, but it depends. I mean, it's up to Cornette because I mean, if he's only there for a year, that's pretty shocking. Especially if they're building a program around him to make him a big star, unless he did something that really put a bad taste in Cornette's mouth and caused issues for him to say, "We got to let him go, man. It's causing too much problems behind the scenes." I mean, but since John Paul's is real tight with him and got him on speed dial, maybe we need to pick his brain.
with Bruiser Bedlam, though, I mean, he was there for a while, over a year, well over a year. But with him, I think it was almost like you run his course. You got him over. He beat Bullet Bob. He beat Savage. Like, run his course. Who are they trying to get over? They're trying to get over Dirty White Boy. Dirty White Boy beats him. Dirty White Boy beats Bedlam and Cornette in a handicap match, and then he's gone. It was almost like you built him up to build up your guy, Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony, and then he's kind of gone and doing his own thing. I don't know if Bruiser Bedlam was ever going to be there for a long extended period of time. It's like Kamala back in the day in territories. Okay, he does Mid-South, he'll work world class, he'll work Memphis, but he's not going to be there for a huge extended period of time, or at least I don't think he should be. Back then, because Smoky Mountains ran much like old territory system.
But
And
just
that was like-
curiosity. So why would the Dirty White Boy stick around? I mean, he was there for a long period of time, because he was a local.
He's local. Yep. Local
Okay.
guy. Their guy. He wasn't paying to, fly him around. He was literally driving around. I think he either lived in Evansville or somewhere local
Okay.
where they were running all the shows. So he's a local guy. Bedlam was not a local guy.
So that's also the caveat of saving
Yep.
money and
And
stuff
then
like that.
remember when Bobby Blaze became the Smoky Mountain champion? He was the local guy that they literally thought was like one of their own, who had literally lived in the town with them in like West Virginia or whatever. So it's like, okay, this is our guy. It's our local guy. This is the guy we need to push. We can bring in this monster, but eventually our local guy's going to beat him, and he's going to kind of go his way, and we're going to keep going forward with our guys who are probably cheaper just because they're local, and the fans really are attached to them, like Dirty
Jerry
White
Lawler.
Boy. Yep,
Like a Jerry
Lawler
Lawler.
would, Lawler would come in. Yep, and then Bobby Blaze.
Yes, Pierce?
Yeah, Piers. What was? I see smoke coming out of yours. What's going on?
He's thinking, he's scratching his chin, and we're waiting for him to say something.
Yeah, you see that? He's scratching his head, scratching his chin. He was thinking.
Yeah, I was thinking. But,
Okay.
like, do you think that the Smoky Mountain run was the highlight of his wrestling career?
I mean, I think it was just a pinnacle. I mean, if you look at his whole career, he was just at the basically like kind of like the starting line, not really, not really hitting the finish line, but he was there, and that's the thing. I mean, because if you look at his career, it's hard to explain. It's just like he was relevant, but not really. So because I remember him, so he had some, being relevant in some form or fashion. So I think all of them was his pinnacle, because you remember him as Johnny Cana from WWF. So I mean, it's like that at the edge of the cliff. You're there, but so people remember, but you didn't jump, but they still remember like you were right at the edge. So I don't know. I think all of them were. What do you think,
It's
Paz?
funny. Like to me, I think it's funny. It's like if he didn't have the life of crime, I don't think we'd be talking about him at all. Other than maybe like popping up, like can't believe who has wins over Macho Man, like fucking Bruiser Bedlam. I don't think we'd be talking about him at all if it wasn't for the life of crime. It would have been like, all right, there's a million guys that were jobbers and enhancement guys in WWF that didn't really make it big, or they went to the smaller territories, or they were in Smoky Mountain for a cup of coffee. I don't think if he didn't have that crazy outside life where Scott D'Amore can tell these crazy stories, and Lance Storm and Cornette and all these guys, I don't think we'd even be talking about him or even think about him. I mean, it's not like Dino Bravo. Yeah, he had the life of crime, but he had this huge run at WWF, and he was this huge star in Canada. Bedlam was kind of, middle of the pack, enhancement guy, almost lucky that he had the feud with Bullet Bob and had the feud, obviously the win over Macho Man.
Yeah.
Just seems like which is crazy to say, if he wasn't a criminal, we probably wouldn't be talking about him at all.
Yeah. That's
100%
true.
agree. 100% agree. And I think, even with his, when he did get out of prison and he did relocate to a different part of Canada, it didn't take long until he'd hooked up and started doing, more illegal stuff, marijuana dealing, cocaine dealing, joining up the United Nations, that sort of thing as well. So it's almost like that sort of trouble almost like magnetized to him.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I'm reading here that he even had a member of the Hamilton chapter, Jerry Gerada, build a bomb. So he had his bomb guy. He had a guy who was able to do explosive. Apparently, he was a former soldier in the Canadian Army and had a custom handling and explosives. So he had connections that that because I'm like, hey, was this guy smart to build a bomb? What kind of bomb did he build? We never even talked about that. Like, what kind of explosives he had accessible? And it looks like he had somebody that had the C4 of fucking making an explosive out of fertilizer and cat food. So, but yeah, I mean, interesting, man. Yeah, he was well connected.
Yeah,
with
Jesus
people.
Christ.
So yeah,
The thing is too, like his wife was saying, or his widow was saying, not a murderer, but if you kind of put all the pieces together and some of the evidence, I know they didn't have all some insufficient evidence, which kind of throws the case out the window. But like everything pointed to him, like, okay, this guy's building bombs. He's got a bomb maker. He's got guns. He's a debt collector for the mafia. Everything, and he's in these gangs. Everything points to he probably was a murderer. But his wife, like, he kept saying wasn't a murderer, wasn't a murderer. Yeah, he dies very young at only 53, but she kind of keeps saying, even in Dark Side of the Ring, that he wasn't a murderer. I don't know why is that so important to get that out there. He probably was, but it seems like she kind of went going like overboard trying to say that he wasn't, like he's got some legacy to hold on to. I mean, there's nothing there.
I think it's probably like I don't know, man. She's either in denial, or I think that he was just like left her as far as out of that sort of aspect of his business and out of his life. But to be honest, like, you look at everything that he did, he was like charged with pardon me, conspiracy to commit murder. He was actually trialed for a murder, the execution style of that couple as well. Like, I think she was a lawyer or she was a judge.
I don't recall.
I read it a little bit, but I mean, I didn't know what career they had. It just apparently they was just executed, like I said, execution style with the shotgun, and then they were investigating it and stuff like that. And apparently they tried to put a spin on it with some other guy saying that he killed them so that he could like snitch. And I just can't remember the guy's name, but he was apparently close with Bellum.
Do you think that this, his life of crime and dying early, God knows the circumstances there, but do you think that if you just kind of like look at it, he wasn't really, I mean, it doesn't seem like he was going to be rehabbing himself and getting better. It just seemed like each year that goes by, or each step as you kind of go through his life, it seemed like he was getting worse. Like the crime would kind of up a notch. You know what I mean? Like at first he's doing this, he's doing, debt collecting, then he's building bombs, blowing up police stations, and he's murdering people. You know what I mean? Like it didn't seem like he was like going into like a life of, I'm going to get myself rehab. It seemed like he was just one step up each time going through his life. Like he didn't want to get better.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that you're right, but it could be the two sides of a coin, because in 2007 he was a bodyguard for Lionsgate Entertainment, and he was doing bodyguard work for Jack Nicholson and Cyndi Lauper. Plus, he was looking for a ghostwriter to write his autobiography. Plus, he had a career in movies like the title of The Oklahoma Smuggler and the TV series The Reaper. So, I mean, this is all in 2007.
Yeah, so maybe let's rehabbing himself a little bit. Yeah,
but no, I'm saying but again, maybe he was still hungry for that life of crime, like he couldn't get away with it. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying that just reading it is like, now I don't know how big his autobiography will be, because again, I mean, I don't know his career, unless he's going to talk about these murders and explosives and his pro wrestling career. But anyway, go ahead, Pierce.
Like, it just sounds like, for me, when I was looking into this guy and everything that I saw, like when I was growing up, I knew a couple people that were like, we'd look at and go, man, this guy is going to end up in jail or he's going to end up dead. Like you just knew that you were going to get a phone call about a couple of these people that I knew. Right. And I think that from Bruiser Bedlam, he was kind of like one of those guys that were like, it was just a matter of time before he ended up in jail, or like, someone tried to take him out. You know what I mean? Like, you live that sort of lifestyle, man. You live that sort of way inclined. Even when you try and rehab out of it, you always go back into it because you do, want to make that money, or you want that rush of that life,
Yeah, correct. I mean, but
something
again,
tells me Jack Nicholson didn't do a background check on Bruiser Bedlam.
Or Cyndi Lauper.
Or Cyndi Lauper. Maybe do a background check on this guy.
Time after time.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, he was loving his career as a bodyguard. That's the thing. But I mean, I don't know how far that went. I mean, he had a gig, so it was steady. So
it's still around that Hollywood lifestyle, though. That he kind of clamored for.
Yeah, I'm just looking it over, but yeah. Maybe it would have been awesome if at the end of his career, like end before, if he didn't die, picture him be like, "Oh, I became a pastor."
Who's he, Vic Grimes?
Yeah, Vic Grimes. Yeah, that motherfucker is all about the. I mean, hey, God bless him, man. But it's just funny how it's hard to accept that Vic Grimes, mud flaps.
Vic
know?
Grimes is now a man of God.
I'll tell you a funny story about Rick Grimes real quick. When we used to share a room together, and he used to take his shirt off. He used to have these Abdullah the Butcher, Mark Henry titties to the back of his,
Right. Yep.
And he used to come out the shower, with a towel wrapped around, and I'm like, those shits look like the mud flaps on the back of a truck, because that's what we used to call them, mud flaps, because of his tits hanging on the back of his fucking in his back. So he probably watched this like, this motherfucker still calling me mud flaps, So, but anyway, back to Bella, man. So I
I'm
mean,
reading here that his wife, saying how she maintained that he was not a killer was because that accusation, she was saying, ruined their life.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess that would happen. It did seem like, I mean, I'm not a cop like somebody else we know, but it did seem like all the evidence seemed like he definitely did it. They just, I guess the police or somebody just couldn't get enough evidence. He wasn't guilty, but it seemed like, I mean, who else could have been? You know what I mean? Just the way the story was going.
Yeah, but I mean, like when you say ruined your life, I mean, there's other murderers out there that done stuff and got away with it. O.J. Simpson, Robert Blake, I mean, yeah, they're not acting, but I mean, those murders were even worse than besides the bombing of the police station. But I'm saying, like, these people are known. You are not known. So you could still hide under the radar if you left Canada or went to another location.
I mean, like, all things considered, despite blowing up a police station and allegedly murdering people, he seemed to be a pretty nice fella.
Oh, why don't you just get him a Christmas card and buy him a ham?
I'm just saying, like, from what everyone was saying, he was a nice enough guy. Besides blowing up police stations.
Did you listen to Cornette and Brian Last Jim Cornette Experience? Cornette, very funny line, was talking about Bruiser Bedlam, and he's like, man, he was great to me. He's great to the boys. Such a great guy, man. If he didn't blow up the police and murder somebody, I would say this guy was awesome. So, pretty great line by Cornette. So it's one of those things where it's like nobody really knew the real him. Kind of scary.
Yeah, 100%.
No, I agree. Sorry, I'm just trying to clean my glasses so I could see.
Like, do you guys think he was a good worker in the ring?
No, he was just a brawler. He was just a brawler. He was just he was not flashy. He was just he falls in the category like a Ted Arcidi,
Yep.
just
Angel
big.
Medina.
No, yeah. I wasn't on the juice like that. I was not brawly. I was able to do a drop kick.
That's why when I went back, and you watch the Smoky Mountain, you see him pin Macho Man. It's like, man, like there's a million other guys in Smoky Mountain that are way better than him. I know, obviously, he had the look and the gimmick, and he was with Cornette. But I always look at that. I'm like, man, you could have this guy go over Macho Man. This guy go over Macho Man. It's like, yeah. It's like you pick him. I was like, all right, because not that good. Just like the big bruiser, really Bruiser Bedlam. I mean, he's just a big bruiser type. Not a great worker. Not that you need to be, but I just didn't. I don't know. He's like a poor man's warlord or something. You know what I mean? Just didn't strike a chord with me as being good in the ring.
Yeah, interesting, man.
Obviously, except Warlord had a way better look to me. Warlord looked like 100%. A friggin' freak. Still does, actually, to this day.
But once again, when I hung out with him, nicest fucking guy. I had that motherfucker rolling. I mean, the dude. I remember him sitting there, and we went to eat, and I had a simple salad and stuff. That motherfucker had hash browns, eggs, I still remember it, a fucking ham steak, a bowl of oatmeal, orange juice. I mean, he took half the table, but then he a really, really nice guy, man. And Barbarian was a hell of a guy, man. Just really humble, really soft spoken. How you doing, brother? How's everything? But he probably could snap my neck and bite my ear off.
What's so funny about like Ming and Haku and those guys? I asked Haku, I was like, are all these stories true? Are you like really this tough guy? He's like, no. I'm like, who's tougher? Then he goes, the Steiner brothers, Barbarian. It's like being really humble and stuff. So then I asked Barbarian, and Barbarian's like, yeah, he's just saying that, like these tough guys don't necessarily say that they're tough, which just means that like, okay, Haku's probably a freak. Barbarian's like, no, he'd kill me or whatever. But he's saying Barbarian beat him. I don't know, like whenever those guys say like another guy's tough, that they're like almost trying to not get into that shit that they've done.
They're not
Like, oh
putting
yeah,
over
didn't you
that
pull
they'll
somebody's?
fuck 'em up, yeah.
Yeah, like like he's trying to almost like skirt the issue. It's like, oh no, this guy's tough. Let's talk about this guy because he doesn't want to talk about pulling some guy's eye out of his head or biting some guy's nose off. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to. So he says this guy is tough, and then Barbarian's like laughing, like, no, he would kill me.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that even if he's humble, I mean, I'd be kind of proud if I'm fucking turning on YouTube and watching interviews. Who you think is the most toughest guy in pro wrestling?
Right,
You know,
right.
and they always throw out your name. Even if you're humble and be like, really? I don't think I'm that tough. And people, but you have that, not the fear, but you put it in their heads. And every interview is like, oh, how cool. How cool. One time I saw him do this. And, it's just, okay. If if I'm a legend that way, then, and I'm still a legend, but that even makes it even better.
It's funny though because like some of these guys, obviously Haku, I mean, they have these legends built around. It's like, oh, he's a tough guy, but then you got a guy like Bedlam, he's a tough guy, but he's really kind of showing you in public, like blowing shit up. Like he's like a different animal. You know what I mean? Like some of these guys are animals, and Haku maybe can kind of keep it to the vest unless you're in a bar and he's drinking and he's biting your nose off. But like some of these guys, like Bedlam, it's almost like they can't contain it, can't control themselves. Like I'm just going to be a tough guy and an animal, but I'm going to let everybody know. I know I like the guys like Barbarian and Haku that at least try to keep it quiet.
Put it this way: the visualization of I have for Bruiser Bellum is he's the type of tough guy that if you did something to him, he goes like you said, the police station. Okay, motherfucker, I get you, and he'll wait for you as soon as you walk out of work, and he comes out of the darkness and hits you in the back of the head with a pipe. Haku is the type of dude that you get into an argument with him, you shoot him square center in the chest with a shotgun. You think he's dead. He fucking sits up like the Undertaker, and you go, "Holy shit, this motherfucker's tough." That's the vision I got of Haku, man. This guy cannot be stopped. He's the Michael Myers of the fucking Fiji Islands.
So who would win in a fight between Haku and say, all right, let's say back when New Jack was around, who would
No,
who
I
would
gotta go
win,
with
New
Haku.
Jack or Haku?
No, because again, Jack was the type of guy who will get you at the end, meaning he'll let it go and then he'll catch you from behind. Remember the story where he hit who he cracked in the head with a pipe when he came through the curtain. Pause, refresh my memory. Fuck.
Shit, who the fuck was it?
I forgot who he hit, man. He hit somebody when he came through
I
the
don't
curtain.
remember.
He'll hit me in a sec, but yeah,
He was kind of like a sneak attacker, kind of.
Yeah, like you beat him up, and then you're like, okay, you walk through the bam, he catches you. He's the fucking Rougeau of the Bulldogs, come around the corner with the brass knuckles into the teeth. That's what I'm saying. So Jack, straight up Haku, man, because he'll keep coming at you.
I always heard New Jack is tough, but like not like kick your ass tough. Like he could take a little bit of beating, but he'll use a knife or whatever, like that kind of stuff. Like tough, like the Steiner brothers would toss him around like there's no tomorrow. Haku, Barbarian, like they would kill him, but he would find a way, pull out a knife or something, and get him because he could take an ass kicking too. But like he's a tough guy, but like a different type of tough guy.
Yeah, there's different levels, but again, I mean, like I said,
Vader would bully people around, then he found out at a different level. Paul Orndorff was a complete nut job, tough guy, psycho. Like, he would turn the switch and kill you. Yeah,
but also, Orndorff was a bare knuckle fighter.
Mm-hmm.
So again, different type of tough guy.
Yep.
Taking this to the grill, fuck, that's no fun, man. But again, I mean, Brella was a tough dude, but again, there's different levels. I don't think he was that level of a Haku or that beast mode, but he was somebody who would just give revenge after the fact, like blow your car up and and after the fact, so
he was a little cocky about it too. Like he thinks he can get away with a lot of this stuff. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
but that's what I think when you're in that life, it's almost like you're going step by step to see. Like you're doing, you go up levels of crime. You start dealing weed, then you go coke, then you go heroin. You start going from beating people up to kneecapping people to eventually murder. And then, you do something like a pretty, a large spectacle, like blowing up a fucking police station.
Feel like, I don't know. It's like you almost think you're not going to get in trouble for. You think you're going to get away with it, or you think you're going to make it your name out of it. Like I'm going to make a name for myself out of this.
I agree. Yeah, I'm just looking at something here, but anyway, look, man, we're at that hour mark, man. I mean, let's get these final thoughts in see what our thoughts about Bruiser Bellamy, and I'll give it to John Paul's, since he knows more a little bit more,
To me, it's like, okay, he's a WWF jobber, WWF enhancement guy. That's kind of where he made his name, kind of made himself like a local legend from that. But then it was like, it was never enough. So, he goes to the life of crime and he becomes Satan's choice. He's in the United Nations gang. Like, he just always seemed to find himself in trouble one way or another. Blew up the police station, was in Smoky Mountain. God knows why, but he beat Bullet Bob Armstrong and Macho Man. Cornette saw something in him. To me, he was one of those guys that we probably, like I mentioned before, we wouldn't be talking about him today unless he was this crazy criminal that tried to blow up the police station and was in trouble with the strip clubs and being a cocaine dealer and a murderer and everything else. So to me, his wrestling legend is very small, but his legend as far as being a criminal that was a pro wrestler, that is what kind of we remember him for. And I don't know if that's a good legacy to leave behind.
My final thoughts in regards to Bruiser Bello, man, like I said, I mean, from my experience watching him and reading the articles about his life and his criminal escapades, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I pop for it because this motherfucker is doing shit that you only see in movies. It's a comedy skit in the making. So I mean, yeah, did he do some fucked up shit? Fuck yeah. Was he proven guilty for the murders? If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. So I mean, they couldn't pin it on him, so I gotta go. He's innocent in the eyes of the court, but he's guilty because he got away. He's guilty, but he got away with it. The guy just has a very colorful past, but his wrestling career is just foggy to me. I mean, he wasn't the greatest worker, but he stood out because of the way he looked.
Yeah.
So. I'm sorry that the guy died. I always don't like when people die. I mean, it's just the boys. But again, I mean, like I said, he made his bed. He needs to lie in it, and he will always be known as blowing up the police station. That is his claim to fame. Pierce,
Man,
A
guy that he pretty much, didn't really have the talent to be a big name star in professional wrestling, and a guy that just couldn't stay out of trouble. And I think that a guy that just sort of attracted himself to trouble and probably only knew how to live a life of crime. I think it was sad because considering how much he was liked and loved by the people around him in the business, it would have been nice for him to sort of have a happy fairy tale ending, but it just wasn't in the cards for him, man. And it's sad, but sometimes that's just the way that the cookie crumbles.
well, I hear you, man. Oh well, hey man, maybe this will be more to the case. Sorry, I'm scratching my ear, but I don't know, man. Let's get those sponsors up, man, so we can get out of here and Pops could count his money and move forward. Hey guys, definitely check out sleeves.com. Definitely a great website if you need arm sleeves, headbands, any sports accessories that you need to help you perform better. Definitely check out sleeves.com. Use promo code MWA pod for 10% off. Also, definitely check out their dirty boxers. Definitely something that you definitely need to have in the bedroom to make those romantic nights very entertaining, but also a good happy ending. You like how I spun that? But definitely use that promo code MWA pod for 10% off. Sleeves.com. Kingpin approved.
And while you're there, check out healthvape.com, your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products, no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they are vitamin infused. So, guys, check out some of their Vape and Pod products. Use that promo code MWA Pod to save yourself 10% on your final purchase. Angel?
I'm just typing away here, All right, man.
What the hell is this guy typing for?
Hey man, I'm an important guy, man. I have people. I got places to be. No, just kidding. I was just clearing my screen.
Tell Vic
Anyway,
Grimes will be at church Sunday morning and it'll be okay.
Shit, I haven't spoken to that motherfucker. Anyway, guys. Hey, everybody. We do appreciate you. Thank you for showing another support for Wrestling with Tragedy. We love you guys. 2022 is getting off to a great start. Pierce, thanks for taking care of my boy Luke Hawks in Australia. John Paws, it's always a pleasure talking to you. The man, the myth, the legend. The guy has a lot of knowledge. He schools me on professional wrestling, and I've been in the business for 30 years. So you can see how his knowledge is beyond my scope of support. So,
Nice.
hey guys, well, I guess we'll see you guys next week, with another episode. We'll tell you what we're going to talk about. I don't know. Maybe it'll be about the dark side of the ring or something very interesting. Tune in. Same black time, same black channel. Peace out.
Peace.
We'll see you next time. Peace out.
Peace.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.